This is a 9x12 ampersand board that I'm using. It's a portrait of Beau, who is the second in a series of 2 cats that I did for the same client. They are colored portraits, so you'll see me add inks later on. So before I start, I overlay the board with a picture that I've printed, usually in black and white, and I've already edited it and cropped it. And I will trace over it with a mechanical pencil with the lead down. This will leave slight indentations on the board for me to use as reference points. I've tried the white tracing paper and it's just not for me. I don't like having those white lines while I'm working. It just really bothers me. I like more of a clean slate. But I do use a spotlight or like a desk lamp that's shining on my work while I'm going, so that I can see my reference points and see what I'm doing better. I use number 11 X-Acto knife blades for almost everything that I do. I do also use a tool that you can find in the Scratchboard kits that has like 4 or 5 pin pricks almost at the end, and I use that when I do hair that's clumped together. And I do a combination of stippling, especially for like noses, eyes, ears, as well as lines for hair, etc. Now you notice I did do the whiskers first, and that's because I think it's easier to get the blade to move to do my first initial whiskers before I've got other hairlines going, because that can kind of catch your blade sometimes if you've got hair that's underneath. So I do the whole portrait in black and white first before I start any color. And I typically always start with the nose and eyes. That's just me, and then I work out from the face, and I tend to jump around too, so that I don't know, don't miss something or get too stuck in one area, and I can come back to it and adjust anything that needs adjusting. I also will occasionally flip the paper back over and kind of just reference the printout and what I'm doing to just make sure it lines up and looks right. I use a small brush when I paint. It's like a 00 or 01 fine tip brush, and I will mix some water with the inks. I use the ampersand inks, so I know there's not much color choice, so it's a lot of mixing and a lot of layers. Between each layer I will scratch again to bring some of the white back in, because the ink, when it hits the dark spots, will make spots darker. So if you just keep adding layers of ink, it's going to turn the spot very dark and almost turn black again. So between each coat I add white back into it, so that comes up with a more vibrant, brighter color when it's all finished. As you can see, I don't wear gloves or anything when I work, but I do make sure my hands are washed so I'm not leaving greasy fingerprints all over the board. I do have like a 3-inch wide paintbrush that I will wipe all the dust off every now and then, because it will build up all over the board. I'd say for the inks on this one, I probably did, I don't know, 3 or 4 layers, and for the greens, I was using the sepia color as well as the green, the yellow, and even some of the black for the darker spots. So just a matter of mixing and layering, and again watering them down some to get the right tones for what you need. It is very important to make sure you let the inks dry between coats before scratching, because otherwise it's going to pop off in big chunks and not give you the fine lines that you want. When I'm done with my work, I do varnish it. I use Krylon UV resistant archival varnish in satin. They have a bunch of other finishes if you wanted matte or even more of a glossy finish, but satin is what I like, and it protects the boards and almost makes the colors even more vibrant when they're done. Thanks for listening.